Today I'll introduce you to a cheese chicken cutlet that can be made in an instant, even when you are busy, and a breakfast soup so delicious that it could be a main dish. For dinner or lunch, here is the best tempura bowl. It's hard to believe it's just vegetables and mushrooms. It's a really satisfying tempura rice bowl, so take a look. One trick makes the butter stick nicely, and I'll show you how to do it later. First, here's what we had for breakfast one day. The streaks of the chicken are removed. Is this called chicken stripes in English? Or is it called chicken tender or fillet? There are so many different words, I didn't know which one was correct. Today we want to put cheese in the meat, so we use a knife to cut into the thickest part of the meat and spread it thinly. Sprinkle lightly with salt and pepper. I'll put it on both the front and back. I have this sliced cheese that contains both cheddar and cream cheese. Please use your favorite cheese. Put it on top of the meat like this and place another piece of meat on top. Prepare panko. We won't have a batter today. Instead, use mayonnaise. Spread thinly using hands or spatula. And if you put panko on it, it's perfect. Making batter is a hassle and requires more dishes to be washed, but this method is great and quick. Also, the meat is quite light tasting and dry, but mayonnaise makes it moist and gives it a delicious flavor. Cover tightly so that the cheese does not stick out when frying after this. Next, I'm gonna prepare the soup. Today's soup is not just any miso soup, it's so delicious and richly flavored that you should definitely try it at least once. The ingredients you add are your choice. Cut into shred or bite-sized pieces. I wanna add carrot, green beans, sweet potato. Other recommended vegetables for this soup include onion, spinach, and bean sprout. It's also recommended to include some kind of meat. I wanted to put ground meat, but I had some pork belly in the freezer. I defrosted in the microwave and it cooked a little. Simmer the carrot and sweet potato first. If you cook it too much, the sweet potatoes will fall apart, so keep them simmering over low heat while you fry the chicken. Today I'd like to cook it with a very small amount of oil. Adjust the amount of oil to your liking. Fry the chicken for 3 minutes on each side. Soup seasoning will be prepared here. Put miso paste. This is white sesame seeds. Use a sesame grinder to make 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground sesame seeds. Add chicken stock powder, soy sauce, and sugar. When the sweet potatoes and carrots are somewhat cooked, add the pork to the boiling water. Green beans. I put Maitake mushrooms too. It's breakfast the day after I make tempura, so I use the leftover ingredients from the tempura. Add milk here. Cover and simmer over low heat for a while. Turn the chicken over. It was fried to a nice golden brown. I forgot to add ginger and garlic to season the soup. Use fresh ginger and garlic to taste. It was hard to mix, so I added a little sake. It's optional. Add this sauce to the pot and mix well. You can put the seasonings directly into the pot. Since miso is already mixed with other seasonings, it's relatively easy to dissolve. Cook just a little more. 3 minutes have passed, but lightly fry the sides. I hope the cheese melts into a delicious chicken cutlet. In Japan, there is a type of ramen called Dandan noodles, and this soup is a truly impressive reproduction of that type of noodle soup. I think it's delicious with rice or noodles in this soup. When the ingredients are cooked and the milk is warm, it's ready to serve. Turn off the heat. Be careful not to overcook while the soup is boiling or the milk will separate. Finally, add a little sesame oil to the soup. If you like spicy food, you can add a little chili pepper. Cabbage is good with the cutlet, but since I got Mizuna cheaply today, let's serve it with this. Wash well and remove water thoroughly. The delicious chicken cutlet makes me want more rice. Sprinkle black sesame seeds. This is crunchy umeboshi. Adding ryu makes the soup even better. You can eat chicken katsu with tonkatsu sauce or just as it is. I hadn't done many fries with mayonnaise, but it was so easy and delicious that I thought I would do more of it in the future. Next dish is vegetable and mushroom tempura. The vegetables and mushrooms make it healthy, yet it's so satisfying that it's hard to believe it's meatless. As with the previous soup, you can make it with your favorite vegetables. First, I got lotus root. After cutting, soak them in vinegar water to avoid discoloration. Remove the stems from the green beans and cut them into small pieces. My husband said tempura is probably the best way to eat sweet potatoes. Potato tempura is also delicious. Eggplant is really incredibly fluffy and juicy when tempura fried. Try to cut eggplant smaller than usual, it's easier to eat this way. Cut a fine slit in the eggplant. Why this cut? By expanding the surface area, the heat is evenly distributed and the frying time can be shortened. By the way, there are many other ingredients that are delicious as tempura, such as onions, kabocha squash, okra, and shiitake mushrooms. Tempura batter has been introduced in this channel several times, but let's review it again. Prepare beaten egg and well-chilled water. Eggs are easier to use if they are mixed quite well. Before we get to tempura flour, here is a new trick for you today. Prepare a slightly larger container with a lid, then add a little flour. Add drained vegetable here. Use paper towels to thoroughly wipe out the water before putting it in. Cover and shake gently. That way the flour will be lightly coated. I say gently because I did it too vigorously and chipped the lotus root. If there is a little more flour on the surface, remove it by hand. Dip a thin layer of flour in advance like this to make sure the tempura flour is well coated and tasty. Prepare sweet potatoes and eggplant in the same way. Now let's make tempura batter. This quantity makes 2 or 3 servings of tempura. Put flour, beaten egg, and cold water. Mix until a few lumps remain. The 2 basic principles of making tempura batter are to chill the batter and not overmix it. This is to avoid creating too much gluten in the batter. If there is too much gluten, the batter will become sticky and the fried tempura will be soggy. Next, prepare the oil. Use white sesame oil as a base and add a little black sesame oil. This way the flavor will be like a Japanese tempura restaurant. I would suggest 1/3 to 1/4 amount of black sesame oil. Mix well. Try adding the butter and if it floats up, it's okay. Fry the lotus root first. Remove excess butter like this before placing in oil. The oil temperature was a little low, but it's okay. Fry lotus root for 2 minutes on each side. Lotus root is really good eaten this way. Tempura sauce will be introduced later. but it's also excellent with salt. Next one is sweet potato. If you cut them thin, you can fry them for 2 minutes each. Sweet potatoes are another classic ingredient for tempura that is quite popular in Japan.
いい匂いしますね。
いい匂いでしょ。
ごま油がいいんですね。何作ってるんですか？
天ぷらです。
美味しそう。味見必要？いいだけ？
これかけたさ、レンコンがあるからさ、これあげるよ。
ありがとう。お塩でいただこうかな。お塩でいただこうかな。ハスって英語でなんだよね。
レンコンはロータスルート。
私？
塩かける？
いいそう。ありがとう。めっちゃいい匂いするね。
さっき私もちっちゃいかけ食べたけどめっちゃ美味しかった。
ごま油何ミックスで作った？
うん、ごま油入れた。
あ、いいよ。白と黒何対何でやってんの？
適当。
お店ってさ、その割合でなんていうの、店の個性が出るんだよね。
うん。この前すっごいいい配合になったんだけど、それを測ってなかったから。
師匠のお店の配合は秘密？
いまだに分かりません。
美味しいこれ。
うわ、焦げた。やば。
美味しい天ぷらって野菜とは思えない満足感があるよね。肉とかヘルシーなのに肉とかさ魚とかにさ
ヘルシーなんだ。
そうヘルシーですよね。それはお芋もできた？
お芋できたけどちょっと
いいだ
冷まして
けこのなんか少量の油なのによくやるね。すごいね。
いや、少量の油の方がうまくいくみたいな。
あ、そう。お店だとさ大量のやつにドバイ入れるじゃん。でももったいないもんね、処理とか。さすが師匠。伝説の料理人じゃん。さすが。伝説の料理人だよ。さつまいも一つください。
はい、じゃあちっちゃいやつね。
ちっちゃ。
私も食べたい。
うまい。でかっ。ちょうだい。
うまっ。
ちょうだい。
やば。
うまいよ。適当な配合の味、ごまのこの風味完璧やん。
あ、そう。よかった。
これ何？あ、マイタケか。
マイタケ、そう。
マイタケって海外なんの？
マイタケはね、
めちゃめちゃうまいよね。
どうなんです
これ、
かね。
火危ないよした。マジ？アジアンショップみたいな、なんかアメリカだとさ、三つは？
テキサスのね。
テキサスだけじゃないでしょ。
テキサス以外にあんの？ま、日
三
本食
つにもあるんじゃないの？
日本のアジアンストアにあるかもしれない。
三つは知ってる人いますか？僕当然行ったことないんですけど YouTube で見たこれマイタケね、本当に美味しいからおすすめです、ね、
超美味しいよね、
これはなんかね、風味が
他のキノコと
全然違うね、キノコあんまり好きじゃない僕でも大好き
ね。
おすすめのキノコ。
Now that the eggplant is done, fry the maitake mushrooms. This one is not floured, but could have been. Make sure to put on butter firmly like this. Maitake mushrooms also cook relatively quickly, so you only need to fry them for 1 to 1.5 minutes per side. The green beans should be added at the end when the amount of tempura butter is reduced to this small amount because I want to make them look like kakiage. Kakiage is usually made with onions and carrots, but this time I'll try it with green beans and corn. I think it would be quite tasty with onions and corn. It would be easier to do if you use 2 spoons and drop them into the oil. After putting it in, leave it for 2 minutes without touching. The crunchy texture of the green beans and the sweetness of the corn were a perfect combination. Fry for 2 minutes on each side. If you make clumps that are too large, tempura will be soggy, but this size is good. Finally, here is a must-have tempura sauce for tempura balls. If you have mensuyu at home, you can use it, but if not, try making this. Put water, mirin, soy sauce, sugar, and dashi powder. Mix well and warm slightly. You can microwave or lightly boil it in a pot. When the dipping sauce is ready, place the rice in a bowl and pour a little dipping sauce over the rice. Then the tempura is served. But it tastes better if you dip the tempura in the sauce once, like this, before placing it on top. You can add more dipping sauce when you eat it. Tendon tempura balls really makes me happy. You too can eat this and be happy.